Whoa! Did I just hear Jim Ross talk about the kiss stealing, forehead bleeding, tears spilling, aeroplane filling, 16-time champion of the world, the Nature Boy? Whoa! You did. Yes, Jim Ross has spoke about Ric Flair, and Ric Flair is pissed off. His forehead is bleeding. He's losing blood by the millisecond. He has bladed every last drop of blood. Ric Flair, he's in angry mode, and he's angry because of some comments that Jim Ross had to say on the whole ride from hell. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling there. Apologies for the little intro, but sometimes you just have to have a wee laugh and joke about life, because you have to remember that wrestling's absolute pish. So if you take it serious all the time, then it's not going to be enjoyable. But if you make fun of yourself, if you make fun of the product, enjoy life a little, then maybe wrestling ain't that bad. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about a guy that enjoyed himself a hell of a lot, and that is the Nature Boy. But he's not happy at the moment, because JR did have a few things to say on the dark side of the ring, and JR was asked about Ric Flair and why he wasn't suspended, why he was allowed to continue, I guess, and why nothing really bad happened to the Nature Boy. So Jim Ross went on to say, and I quote, "He's the life of the party. If you know him, you know where to exit the party and go to your own safe place, or you don't know the rules and you find yourself in deep water." End of quote. Then when they asked JR, like, why wasn't Flair suspended or punished, JR had the following to say, quote, "Good question. I guess for the lack of a better term, he was a made man. He was such a high-level made man that he got a pass. Was it the right thing to do? I don't know. You're listening to it, folks. You decide. He got a pass." End of quote. Now, Jim Ross has later come out and said that he felt like he was misrepresented a time or two on the whole editing process. But I don't think what Jim Ross has said there was really that bad. We all know what's happened. What Ric Flair done is pretty much common knowledge at this point in time. And all JR has turned around and said is that he doesn't believe Ric Flair got punished because he was Ric Flair. He was a Nature Boy. And then he also kind of suggested that if you party with Ric Flair, you need to know when to stop, because Ric Flair's a bit wild and sometimes, you know, he can go too far. I don't think either comment from Jim Ross is that bad, but of course Ric Flair is throwing all the toys at the pram here and he is crying. He says, "Jim Ross lost every bit of credibility with me in life. In spite of calling me the greatest wrestler of all time." I don't know why I was starting off. Right, I'm going to end that there. I don't know why I start off with Vince McMahon. I'll just say it normal, but I guess. Quote, "Jim Ross lost every bit of credibility with me in life. In spite of calling me the greatest wrestler of all time, or whatever in his induction, when he jumped on dark side of the ring, because all he is starving for and leaning on in life is to be relevant, because he ain't. I can forgive Jim Ross for dark side, which I have, because there's nothing wrong, there's nothing worth it, but I don't appreciate it. Jerry Lawler texted me. I don't know how many people said, what the fuck did Jim Ross mean? You got to know when to walk away from Ric Flair. Are you kidding me? Well, the WWE learned when to walk away from Jim Ross. I'm going to the 30th reunion, and I don't think he is. At the same time, Jim Ross will always be my favourite announcer. I'm not diminishing his skills. I'm not like Eric Bischoff saying I was no good at anything. I'm telling you, Jim was the fucking best. But I also thought he was one of my best friends, and a friend doesn't do that." End of quote. So there you go. That's Ric Flair's whole take on the Jim Ross stuff. Personally, I don't think what Jim Ross really said about Ric Flair was that bad. I mean, he's just speaking his mind, and I mean, it does seem like getting too drunk with Ric Flair could potentially lead you to danger. So why the hell would you do it? I don't know. I think Jim Ross is entitled to his opinion here. Plus, with Ric Flair claiming that Jim Ross is looking for credibility and that he's not credible anymore, I mean, Jim Ross is still appearing, and I don't like AEW, I hate AEW, but he is still a commentator. You know, he's still a big part of AEW. He's on TV every week, so you can't say he's not relevant. Ric Flair isn't really he might be going to a reunion, but when was the last time Ric Flair was on TV? When was the last time Ric Flair was relevant? Yeah, he had that last match and it almost fucking killed him. So I don't think Ric Flair should really be talking about relevance here, because WWE didn't want him either for a long time. He was let go. He was taking out the opening intro for Raw, and he bitched and complained about that as well. So I mean, I don't really know what Ric Flair's problem is here. Again, Jim Ross is with AEW, and that's why Jim Ross isn't going to this 30th reunion. I'm sure if Jim Ross was unemployed, I'm sure if Jim Ross wasn't with AEW, then perhaps he would be with WWE, or perhaps he would want to go to the 30th reunion. But of course, if he works for the rival company, then he's not going to be invited to a reunion, is he, Rick? So again, Rick here just twisting things to try and fit his own agenda, to try and make it look as if he's super relevant and Jim Ross ain't. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's a reason Jim Ross isn't being invited to this 30th reunion, and it's not because he's not relevant, and it's not because he's not wanted, it's simply because he works for AEW. So Ric Flair, I mean, he says a lot of stupid shit. I remember that time he turned around and says like Charlotte Flair and Charlotte Flair and someone else could be the Rock and Austin of this generation. You're like, what the fuck, man? Come on, Rick, seriously. Take your meds, take your pills, go home, go to sleep, and hopefully you'll wake up feeling better in the morning. Woo! And that's it, guys. Till next time, let us know your thoughts down below. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.